In Nigeria, cassava wastes are usually left to rot or burnt to create space for the accumulation of yet more waste heaps. The heaps emit carbon dioxide and produce a strong offensive smell. Cassava peels, which secretes a large amount of cyanogenic glucosides, and pulps, which is a large amount of biodegradable organic matter, may cause surface water pollution, especially if they are stored under heavy rain or simply disposed of in surface waters. Generally, the long-term and broad-based impact of cassava processing on the environment can be corrected by proper waste treatment. The use of cassava byproduct as feeds or as an alternative substrate for biotechnological processes is a positive way to alleviate environmental issues, researchers have argued. The growing demand and processing of cassava is churning out cassava residues, including peels, to the environment.
We want to put into the market the 14 million tons of cassava waste that is littering the environment. We want to put these into the feed industry. Human population is growing, urbanization is occurring. As urbanization occurs and incomes grow, people substitute more meat and meat products into their food than carbohydrates. These demands would need to be met. If you don't have alternative sources of feed like this, those demands would not be met. Food insecurity will step in with risks that are associated with those. Poorly fed people would depreciate human capital. As an example, these 14 million tons of waste should be removed by the Ministry of Environment. It costs about $50 per ton to remove this. If this project removes 14 million tons of waste, it has worked for the Ministry of Environment. So instead of setting up incinerators, they should set up flash dryers and things that support this project to get it to a commercial product that goes out there in the market.
In Nigeria, drying cassava peels on black plastic sheets has been drawing the attention of smallholders and was the winning project of the 2008 Global Development Marketplace, a grant program held by the World Bank. The project, using cassava waste to raise goats, is to trigger a new market mechanism between 3,600 cassava processors and 600 goat keepers that will improve their income by about $300 per year and reduce carbon dioxide emission by eliminating the burning of cassava waste in 12 cassava processing centers in Ogun State. Researchers at the International Livestock Research Institute, meanwhile, say the cassava peels can feed more than goats.
The first stage gives you a product like this, which still would need, to get better because...
Dr. Iheanacho Okike is a researcher with the International Livestock Research Institute. He says the peels could contribute largely to the income of farmers and provide additional economic options for livestock and fish producers if converted to animal feeds. He is currently leading a research work on the use of cassava-based feeds for farm animals in Nigeria and other countries in Africa. After a 6-week trial, the results showed that Nigeria could reduce the amount spent on maize importation. As at 2011, Africa spent around $4.6 billion on the importation of maize. Nigeria's feed industry accounted for 1.2 million tons, worth about $350 million during that year.
We started this project with all stakeholders on board. We invited feed millers, we got them to know what we intended to do. We got some producers and they knew, but they might not have known how far we could come. So once we started getting the first products, we did our own internal analysis and we had to go back to them and say, okay, you have your laboratories also. Do your comparative analysis and let's see whether we are seeing the same thing. And they were the very first people who returned to us and said, this could be half the price of maize, come on. And we said, okay, if it is going to be that based on ordinary laboratory analysis, we want to see how this performs in the animal, in the birds, because digestibility issues and things like that might change what you see as a lab issue. Okay, so We agreed with them, and we started off with the poultry, and that's broiler. We can tell you for sure that there has not been any difference, between the control, which is maize, and substituting this product into 30% of maize. So the thing is that the broilers are the most sensitive. If their energy and performance requirements can be met at 30% replacement of maize, it is possible to go even higher for replacement of maize in layers and other types of production.
The production process is quite easy for anyone who understands the Gari production process.
I've been associated with this project for the past 1 year, and in this 1 year it has come a long way. So when we started, there was nothing. We brought in the machineries, we started understanding the process, how it is done, and then we took the same concept there. The way it is, the Gari is processed, the process is the same. Only thing is the commodity is different. Here, instead of processing the tubers, you use the peels. Rest of the process same. The grating, dewatering, and instead of roasting, you introduce the sun drying. So that the adoption of technology rates are much higher. You don't require high-tech equipments or high specialized skills. This is almost similar like what they're doing, and it's locally available, and there is demand from the livestock sector that is growing at a very fast rate. Like the very fact that in the first month itself we have an order of 60 tons. So now we are struggling, how do we fulfill this? So this is just the beginning. So the demand is going to be there, and then the way the government is supporting the cassava production, it's obviously it's going to increase the production. So the byproduct availabilities will continue for a long time. So you have a win-win situation where the process is being benefited, the industry is being benefited, but only thing is we need to bring them together.
The process involves arrival of the fresh peels, sorting out stumps that could damage the drum if used, and then once they are sorted, we go into rasping. We rasp the peels to a consistency that enables pressing of water out, and this happens around the third time of grating. Once that is done, we pack the materials that are grated into bags that allow seepage of water and put them in cages that enable us to press, and eliminate water, most of the water. And that process is really key to what we are doing, because if you press 1 ton of material, you get half a ton of liquid out of it in 30 minutes. And that's the beginning of drying. It shortens the drying process and makes our ambition possible. After we've dried, we arrive at a cake. That cake would need pulverizing, loosening again to enable drying. So we take it to the next stage where the pulverization goes on. But in the material that is loose and that has come out, there are 2 fractions. And you couldn't actually leave just those 2 fractions that way. So we go into a sieving process that enables us to separate them into fractions for poultry and other monogastrics. And this includes fish, and pigs, and fractions for ruminants, mostly cattle, sheep, and goats. These fractions have different energy and fiber contents, with those from monogastrics being much higher in energy content. Once that process of fractionating is done, the next is sun drying. We take all the materials out to the sun, and when you're doing sun drying, 2 factors are critical: the thickness of spread and the surface. So because of that, we conduct drying experiments. Our drying experiments have shown that the optimal drying spread is about 6 tons of loose material per square meter. What this means is that a small adapter of this, who takes it up and has 100 meters of square meters of space, can dry 600 kg of this material and harvest 400 kg in the evening.
More so, in making the feeds, there is a need to ensure the elimination of contaminants during the drying process.
The challenge has always been making sure that you can dry year-round. This is the biggest challenge. Other challenges would come. Those challenges would refer to scaling. For example, it might be slow to meet the types of demand that industry wants. One of the people we are working with has asked us, oh, can we get 60 tons of this per month? And we can't, okay? So the issue is, what will be the model, or what are the models for scaling this? How do you go about it? So we are also thinking about collective action, actions that develop models that could be built around industry. For example, an enterprising young and new entrepreneur could have a flash dryer. A flash dryer built around producing only the cake. So specialization comes in. The processors just produce the cake. They can produce it in the dry season, they can produce it in the rainy season. And this industrialist just buys the cake and flash dries it. That could be a model for scaling this. Our challenges relate to continuing to dry, satisfying industry, and scaling this, particularly scaling it in ways that do not take away the benefits from the small producers and small processors and households that depend on cassava.
They argue that the use of cassava-based feeds in Nigeria will bring several benefits, including cutting down on maize imports, most of which are used for livestock.